Small business is about courage, risk-taking, independence, and we small business owners are survivors. Everybody has an idea for a business, but how do you take that idea from mind to market? This is the place to learn.
Small Business School.
It's a new kind of school. Together we'll learn about business from the inside out, from the people who've done it. We'll meet the men and women who are today's pioneers and quiet heroes. Their lives are the textbooks. Our classroom is the world.
Small Business School is made possible by support from the United States Postal Service, delivering the promise to America's 23 million small and growing businesses. There's no wait at the post office in your own office. USPS.com is waiting for you. And by Microsoft.
We see you building a new company from an old company. We see a business full of potential. We're inspired to create software that helps you reach it.
Hi, I'm Hattie Bryant. Architects all around the world have asked the question, what would I do to reconstruct the World Trade Center? What is architecture? How do we design the buildings that shelter us? These are questions constantly being asked by two who, upon college graduation, left the farmland of Pennsylvania to become part of the magic of New York City. There are over 24 million small businesses in the USA, and 40% of us are service providers, and that includes architectural services. It also includes dog walking, psychoanalysis, car towing, dentistry. Any service that people will pay for can be turned into a business. Some of the most highly educated and skilled professionals run service companies. In 1978, Nancy and Eric Goshow started their architectural firm in their living room. Let's go now to their offices in the Flatiron District of Manhattan.
For Eric and I, great architecture would be the poetic fusion of function and beauty. Then the question gets more specific. I mean, for me, the answer becomes more specific, because I think you have to then say, who is asking? If you are asking me what I believe is great architecture, I'm going to give you one answer. If a client asks me, it's going to be a different answer, because what we do is always contextual. It's always seen within an environment. It's never on its own. It's always within a city, within a neighborhood, within a community. Architecture is not fashion. It's not the flavor of the month, but it's this timeless quality.
I think that there are very few architects who get into this business for money. I mean, they're in this because they want to be involved in the building process and they love the idea of design.
Well, I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful view of the city skyline from my office. And so I look out at the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, every day I come to work. And sometimes it's difficult to work because there I am looking out the window.
Are those great buildings?
They are great buildings. They are great buildings. They're timeless. They're recognized as beautiful buildings by many people. So for me, great architecture is architecture that's recognized by many people, remembered fondly by many people.
Our own interests were to do larger scale work. And for that, you need to have overhead. You need to have good, talented people around you. You need to have a space where you can really work. And you have to be able to provide things that will attract talented people. The projects, for us, primarily interesting projects.
Okay.
That's really primarily what young people especially are after. So we're looking for the brightest young people out of college who want to come to us. But also, of course, we need experienced people, too, who really have the technical background or the ability to work with clients, the ability to understand money issues. So putting together a team from senior management down to young, bright people is awfully difficult to get that mix right. It's kind of like a choir, you know, the male and the female voices have to be very carefully selected.
Goshow Architects is a collaborative, team-oriented office. And the origins of the collaborative process for Eric and I is the fact that we work well together and we are able to build on each other's ideas. So collaboration is at the root of everything that we do here in the firm.
Why don't we first of all go to the calendar?
And let's look at where we are on our calendar with our deadlines.
The office is divided into 9 teams, 5 design teams and 4 specialty teams, which are computing and cost estimating, specification, administration, and marketing. A senior architect heads each design team, which then, throughout a single project, interacts with the specialty teams.
At this firm, there's a great deal of freedom to find your voice as a designer and as an architect. However, not everyone is comfortable with so much freedom, and they are looking for more supervision, for more guidance. And because our firm is so fast-paced, and because we are an office of people who are independent thinkers who come together collaboratively, it's very important that people can act on their own initiative and can make some judgments and decisions on their own without having someone watching them every step of the way, because we're not set up to do that. That's not how we work.
We had a small office in the 80s over in 27th Street. Nancy taught in the interior design department of FIT, Fashion Institute of Design, which is right across the street. And we were able to operate, I guess, between 5 and 10, or maybe 12 in those days. It was the largest we ever were. And we were doing mostly residential projects. Nancy was teaching. And I was more prominent in the design aspects and the running of the firm in those early years. And we saw something happening toward the end of the 80s. We were making a decent amount of money at that level. But toward the end of the 80s, of course, there was that problem of 87, the so-called crash of 87. And Nancy foresaw that, really. It was really she who really put her finger on what was happening before it really happened. And we decided that we had to diversify, and we asked ourselves, who has money and who will continue to have money if the economy slows down? And it was always the public sector, that is to say, federal, state, city governments, agencies.
Focusing on the public sector paid off for Eric and Nancy with projects like Pier 34, the first new pier built into the Hudson River in over 30 years.
Nancy is excellent at the overall management of firms, and she was and is the managing partner. So by stopping her teaching affairs and getting very full blast in the company around 87, 88, I think that was really the basis for the change when she really took over the management. I would be good at saying, Nancy, we've got to computerize. We have to do everything on CAD. It's no longer, we can't present ourselves properly if we're doing hand drawings anymore, which is my personal talent.
Right.
I draw very well. She had the great ability to make us computer literate, CAD literate, bring in the right people to help support that, make our pitches to the people in the public sector. So our first really big public client was the United States Postal Service in 1990. We renovated post offices in the whole metropolitan area. We had another big contract with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and for the New York State Facilities Development Corporation, and for the United States Department of Labor, and another one with the United States Department of Energy, and with the New York City School Construction Authority, under which we've renovated, I think it's now 44 different school buildings, out of the 1,100 that they have in New York City. It's an enormous program. So it's a big client for us.
Nancy showed me George Westinghouse Vocational High School in downtown Brooklyn.
So what is that tile underneath? That's a Guastavino tile. It's very special.
That all came out of that effort to, first of all, grow and present ourselves as a WBE, a women-owned business enterprise, and be willing to invest in the infrastructure, in space, and technology, that we could be credible against a lot of the firms we were competing against.
Not every project is for the public sector. This new building is going up at 660 12th Avenue and will be home to a FedEx delivery center and eventually internet servers and switching equipment. Great companies are not built overnight.
I think it probably takes 40 years. And I would break this down into 4 10-year segments. The first year, since we're trained as architects, we weren't trained in running a business. The first 10 years, we learn how to run a business the hard way. We have many disappointments. We have many people, many clients who promise us one thing, and then when we get there, it's something else. There's a kind of a toughening up, learning the rules of business, learning that the rules of business are not always fair and equitable, but they're the rules of business. And you can't judge them or change them. You just follow them and recognize them and become more comfortable with them. The first 10 years, you learn how to run a business, and the work comes to you because of your reputation. The second 10 years, you know how to run the business now, and you take what you've developed in the first 10 years out to the marketplace to show every prospect what it is that you have to offer. So that's the second 10 years. You're building now your portfolio to a new level. You're getting larger projects, and you are going out and you are selecting now the clients that you want. The third 10 years is the refinement of the first two 10-year segments, in which you are beginning to seriously take a look at profitability. You are looking at larger projects now that give you a sustainability. You know your capacity. You know what backlog feels like. You have a sense of how you balance capacity and workload. The last 10 years are the years that you look to the future of the firm and bringing in new partners and mentoring those young people that are coming up in the field. And in some cases, we try to give the mentoring that maybe we did not have.
Perhaps perforated metal.
Eric and I have a very special relationship. We are husband and wife. We are business partners, but most of all, we're best friends.
So that's like into the interior of the building.
Okay.
That's the whole idea.
The reason we wanted to work together and still want to work together is because as professionals, we're both so serious about our work, and we end up working long hours. We take our work very seriously. And when we're not in the office, we're looking at architecture, talking about architecture, eating, sleeping, and breathing architecture. It's not just a job, it's our life.
I feel fortunate that architecture found me, or I found architecture in some ways, because I do think that most people go through their lives not really enjoying their day-to-day life. It's not that what they're planning for in the future or how they see themselves, the image they project of who they are or they want to be. It's to the very basic level of what you do every single day. And if you can be satisfied with that, I think that's, for me, what bliss is about.
40 years. That's how long Nancy and Eric figured it would take them to build a well-known architectural firm. The very idea that they started this knowing it would take 40 years is shocking to our American get-rich-quick, we-have-no-patience psyche. What we can all learn here is we shouldn't think of going to work, we should think about creating work. With this mind shift, we can see why Nancy and Eric aren't concerned about getting somewhere. They are concerned with the unfolding of their gifts, their deepest and richest insights about space. The company has evolved from creating homes to commercial and public sector projects and onto beloved institutions. Do we all need to stop going to work and start creating work? I think so. To read the entire script of this program, go to smallbusinessschool.org.
This is a luxury apartment on the Upper West Side. And what happens when you're just doing a little room like this bedroom is you're exploring ideas in miniature and ways that you can use them on larger projects. And it's fun to enter into a dialogue with clients who really are interested in our ideas. Some of our larger developer clients are interested mostly in time and money. But this is where this individual is going to live his life, and this bedroom is very important to him. He'll be here every single day. And so getting it right and working with him has become a real joy. This is in a way where we derive our bliss. Working, really struggling with the problem, getting lost in problem solving, presenting our ideas to the client, and going through a process of sometimes discussion, sometimes argumentation, as we learn what he's interested and what his needs are, and we bring our own interests to the project. So residential work for us is a real kind of laboratory for understanding design notions. And that gives us great pleasure in our lives.
A long-term and complicated project for Goshow Architecture is the Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church. They are the lead firm on renovation and expansion of this Gothic revival structure built in 1875.
One of the things we always do when we are doing a design scheme is we always draw up exactly what the client thinks the project should be. If you don't do that, you will never get beyond that idea that the client has. And the clients always have ideas.
Nancy shows me the scale model of the interactive children's museum they have designed for the Brookhaven National Laboratory. She explains that after drawing what the client wants, Goshow draws up their own ideas, striving to give the project visual buzz.
We also added eyes and an eyebrow, and the eyes are actually an exhibit that are concave and convex lenses for the children to run up to the building and see what is going on inside.
The result becomes a merge of everyone's thinking. So what is the secret to successful client service?
Ask questions, probe, listen, present, watch and listen for the response, modify it, and then conclude it with the client every step of the way. And it may take more than one iteration.
Let's talk about what it takes to get a piece of business.
In the field of architecture, we have to be getting new clients all the time. People come to us, they build a building, and the building's built, and then we have to look for a new client. We spend anywhere from $6,000 to $25,000 on a proposal for a project, depending on the size and scope and who the client is and how well they know us, or how much we have to introduce them to what we do and how we work. The most we've ever spent was $65,000. We did not get the project.
And she still smiles.
But I have a follow-up to that.
Okay.
My attitude on the fact that we didn't get the project for $65,000 was, okay, fine, that's not a problem. We now have that project in our portfolio ready for the next opportunity. And my experience has taught me that we will have another opportunity, and then we'll be right there. We're ready to go. We don't have to reinvent that piece. And that has proven to be important in our overall marketing strategy, because everything we have done that has not been successful, we've found a second chance in which to reintroduce it into something successful for the firm.
Right.
I looked at architecture, and I was encouraged at Penn State to go into the School of Home Economics, which was the school that the women went to in those days, and to study interior design in that school. And they were not really accepting, I don't want to say this, women were discouraged from studying architecture at Penn State in those days. If I had been a man, I would have been encouraged into the architectural program at that time. But I was not encouraged. I was discouraged, and I was told, I was steered into the College of Home Economics. In about 1986, I was able to go to a course offered to women by the federal government called American Women's Economic Development Corporation. And through that course, I was able to take classes on how to run a business, which we desperately needed because we were trained as designers and architects. We really didn't know the ins and outs of running a business. We didn't know the rules of business. So I took that class, and when I was done with it, I realized that in order for me to really be part of Goshow Architects, the firm, I had to become a licensed architect. And so I started on my journey in 1986 to become a licensed architect. And by 1989, I had passed my exam and had received my license from the state of New York. Hattie, this is the Morris Jamel Mansion.
Even
It's the
Nancy's
oldest
spare time is invested in
surviving
architecture.
residence in Manhattan.
She is the president of the Board of Trustees of the Morris Jamel Mansion Museum, an historic house built in 1765, the oldest residence in Manhattan.
That is why George Washington had his headquarters here during the Revolutionary War while he fought the Battle of Harlem. In those days, you could see both rivers, so it was a very strategic point. He could see in both directions, he could see the troops coming.
Tell me how this firm got started.
I met Nancy in my last year at Penn State. So she was not in the architecture school, she was in a related field in interior design, but I really didn't know her through classes. I met her socially in my last year at Penn State, and we were deciding what it is we're going to do with our lives. And one of the fantasies, and it was just a fantasy, was that we might just want to get married and practice architecture together. After about 10 years, it was always in the back of our minds to do this. Yeah. We really had to discover what we wanted to do. That's the first thing. That is to say, what markets we want to involve ourselves in, at what scale, what size projects we want to do, and how you prepare yourself to do that sort of thing. You're not going to get a $100 million building as a mom and pop shop, for example. But we could be very happy doing residential projects, interiors and houses in the countryside, very happily. And that's the way we started, actually, because we were a mom and pop shop at that point. And we did that for quite a few years because we didn't want to incur overhead costs, and we wanted to get our feet wet, and we wanted to see if anybody would come to us and want to pay us to do this.
Well, we're successful because we balance, Eric and I as partners balance each other in a very special way. I start thinking from the detail and I work up to the overall picture. Eric starts with a very large picture and works down, and that's very complementary, so that there's a symbiosis of the two of us thinking things through from very different points of view. Because of that, we have, over the years, working together and being married, have developed different roles for each of us to play in the operation and development of the firm. I think that's been very important in the success of our firm. However, we also can play each other's roles as well, and sometimes we have to, because if I have to be out of town, he has to take over things that when I'm not here. So we know each other's role also, we're able to step in and cover each other when we're not here.
What are the hard parts about building a business?
Charting new territory on your own with no one else to talk to about what's the next step. When you're working for someone else, you have a situation, you need a priority set, you don't know what the next move is. You go to the boss, and the boss helps you set those priorities and gives you a direction to go in. When you have your own business, it comes from within, and you take bold steps, and you try things out, and sometimes you succeed, and sometimes you fail. And so you just keep trying until you get it right.
Nancy and I have been privileged to practice architecture here in New York City these past 25 years. You look around the buildings that we are surrounded by, it's really extraordinary. The Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, New York Life, Metropolitan Life, the Flatiron Building, all this great architecture, and we then look downtown, and we're faced every day of our lives with the fact that those two wonderful towers that used to be there are just no longer there, and for us, we see that every single day. And it's really hard. What we're doing as architects in this city is we're looking for a universal language that can bring us all together and create a better world for us to live in. And I think that occurs through the dialogue and the inclusivity and the various points of view that are brought together here in New York and in our office too. And we're very proud of that and proud to be part of that dialogue. It seems to us that openness, that inclusivity is really the characteristic of American life, and we'll add our words to that notion as we go through that rebuilding downtown.
What we can all learn from Nancy and Eric. We shouldn't think of going to work, we should think about creating work. With this mind shift, we can watch our work unfold into a never-ending contribution to our customers and our communities. Nancy's marketing idea to mail her customer and prospect list a lovely piece of art worthy of posting is perfect. She gets her name in front of people with just the right look and feel. No company is too old or too established to need a marketing plan, and it should be database oriented. We all need to know the name, address, phone number, email address, and buying habits of customers. Some business owners tell me they know the names of their customers' children, anniversaries, and birthday dates, and favorite foods. To increase the prospect database at Goshow, everyone recently took a lead generation seminar. That's a good idea for all of us.
Small Business School is made possible by support from the United States Postal Service, delivering the promise to America's 23 million small and growing businesses. There's no wait at the post office in your own office. USPS.com is waiting for you. And by Microsoft.
We see you building a new company from an old company. We see a business full of potential. We're inspired to create software that helps you reach it.
If you want to learn more about starting, running, and growing a business, come to our website, smallbusinessschool.org. There's streaming video and interactive study guides.
The only way we can compete with big business is to be faster, smarter, and better. We are the engine of the American economy. We create the jobs. Small business is about big commitment. It's about sacrifice and struggle. But we do it because we say, if I don't do this, my life won't be complete.